Hello, guys. So, today I'm going to record day 11 lab configuring static routes. Okay, I did record earlier, but I couldn't upload it because the file format is corrupt or whatever. It did not work. And guess what? I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna walk you through it. And I did learn something new today while I'm doing this. Besides following Jeremy Lab, I did everything from scratch, exactly what he did. And yeah, I made mistakes. I make one mistakes, and my try to ping PC1 to PC2. Um, it's not successful. You could see timeout request timeout, request timeout. But then I went back. I looked at the IP route table, and I realized I make mistakes. Then I didn't know how to fix it. I just Google how to fix it, and the whole time is right there in front of me. Let me walk you through it. So obviously, step number one is to configure the default gateway, right? Default gateway again, it's just a router IP address. In this case is 192.168.1.254. And make sure to set the PC1 IP address to 192.168.1.1, right? .1.1. And then subnet mask is auto populate. It dash it's class C slash 24. And yeah, and then you exit it out. Next, you basically you basically configured router one, change the name. I don't know why it's not showing the whole thing, but you enter the privilege mode, configuration terminal, change the router names, and then you go to each um, interface. First, G0/1 connect to the switch one, right? Connect to switch one, and then like you see here, I put description, and then finally I did enable the router, so it's up and running. And then I configure interface 0 G0/0, and then here's the IP address I've entered 192.168.12.1.1 subnet mask, right? This is the same thing how we did it for PC1, but the router it need to do it this way. So think of it like that. Same thing, description. You want to um, give a description of router 1 to router 2, and then you want to also um, enable the interface. Then I finally show the table by typing command do show IP brief interface brief. Uh, do show. The reason you put do here because you in this configuration mode. Uh, so you need to force it to execute this command, right? Okay. And you could see here I configured 192, right? You could see here gigabit internet. It's fast internet from here to here is up, and then from here to router 2 is not up is because I need to also configure R2, right? I understood that. Then I go down, okay, and then I go to do the same thing for all router 2, pretty much do exact same thing how I did it earlier for router 1, you know. Um, Again, here you could see into the privilege mode, configuration terminal, change our host name to R2, access interface G0/0, and then configure that IP address, right? And then give a description from R2 to R1, and then I enable that. So that way these two is able to communicate to each other, okay? And then I go ahead and configure now the interface to to router 3, right? As you can see here, right here, into that, set the IP address and the subnet mask, and give a description from R2 to R3, and then enable the router. Default router is set to down, so doing this allowed it to um, allowed it to enable or like turn online, right? Make it work. Then I also go ahead and check the interface brief again. You could see now this IP is up, but then from this interface to this interface is not working. It's down, right? Same thing. I need to configure router 3. All right. I need to configure router 3. So click on router 3 to show you. Scroll back up. Okay, and same thing. You want to access the router by into the privilege mode from user to the privilege mode. You could see here, I configures terminal to access to access the configurations of the router 3, and then I go ahead and access the interface G0/0. Same thing how we did earlier, um, int G0/0, and then go ahead and set IP address to this and a subnet mask, then give a description from R3 to R2. All right, and finally no shutdown again. And then I did the same thing for G0/1, but this time I'm gonna connect it to um, the switch. Okay, you can see here IP address 192 68-3.254, subnet mask 255.255.255. You got this. This is class C subnet mask or /24, and then I give a description of R3 to switch to, and then finally I did enable. Okay, and then I do show table again, right? And then the next step, I'm going back to configure static route on the router to enable PC1 to successfully ping PC2. So you know what, I go ahead and do ping, right? I think I did it at the beginning. You can see here, destination host is unreachable. Well, what does that mean? Uh, that means PC1 doesn't know where to go to be able to ping from PC1 to PC2. It need to, like as a admin, you need to configure so that way allow PC1 connect to PC2, right? How do you do that? Well, Jimmy videos, right? Show us how to do it. But let me I kind of explain it how it works. PC1 need to know where to send, you know, the package to or the payload to. Is it R1, R2, R3? Or is it from PC1 to R1, from R1 to R2, to R2 to R3, from R3 to switch, from switch to PC2, right? This needs to this need to configure, and that's what Jeremy did. And so I go back and configured just that. Um, the total of four, right? This router doesn't know this network. This network doesn't know this router network. Like this router doesn't know this network. This R1, I mean R2 doesn't know the network from R1 to R2. It need to be configured, right? So we need to configure four of them. One from here, one from R1, two from R2, and then one from R3. Okay, so this is router one. You can see here. I did, let's see. So here you go. So I set the route, right? IP route 192.168.3.0. So what does that mean? IP route, right? 192.168.3.0. You telling the destination IP address that you try to access with this subnet mask, right? And this third thing here is that how do you want to do it? By using exit interface, or do you want to use um, next hop, right? Next hop contain IP addresses. In exit interface contain, you know, is represented by G0/1, for example, G0/0, for example, right? So from here, this is where I make mistakes. You could see here I put 192.168.12.0. Actually, it's dot two from here to here. So telling my router one to go to R2 to be able to forward my package, my payload to R2, right? So that's the mistake I make. You will see. So and then I do show IP route, and you can see here. So you can see here, this is connected. This is local. We configured earlier, right? And then statics. This is you have to manually configure to be able to show up like this, right? And again, this is where I make mistake. It's supposed to be a dot two, not dot zero. Okay, scroll down, right? So far, I do everything for R2 and R3, right? I did everything exactly the same how I did it earlier. You can see here down, let me see, down here, IP route, right? Again, R2 need to know the network IP address. So that's why I put this IP route here, right? With the this respective IP subnet mask. Sorry. And this time I don't use the next hop. I use the exit interface, right? So using this right here, right? It's the same thing. It's whatever you want to use, but this is other way to use it. That's what Jimmy want to show us, right? And so I did that, and I also did the same thing. Let me see, what did I do here? Yeah. So again, I need to tell two, right? Two networks here, right? So one is this, second one is this, because router 2 is connected to both router. So it need to be doing that. And same thing. But then the next one, he using the next hop, right? You can see here from here to here. Oh, 192.168.13.3, right? Hey, go here, you know, go here. Okay, so I stop there and then I do the same thing for router 3. Let me see right here. You can see router again. Router 3 doesn't know the network over here, so you need to clarify that. This is again, this is the destination IP address. Okay, and the subnet mask, and what method you want to use. This case, he using uh, the next hop 192.168.3.13.2. So like go back here, right? You can see here statics show over here. So everything show because I show IP route right here. So that's that. And then I go ahead and configure PC2 and same thing like PC1 we just did earlier. Um, put the IP address and the subnet mask. Let's just redo this again to show you. Subnet mask. This is basically the router IP address 192.68.3.254 right here. Okay. So and then set IP address for the PC2 192.168.3.3.1 right here. Okay. So that's that. And then I go to PC1 and ping. Right. You could see here. Oh my God, I'm super confident, yada yada. I thought it was gonna work. But no, it didn't work. It requests timeout. Something wrong. Something wrong. Something wrong. I did again, and I thought it was, I go back to see the IP route and everything. It turned out, like I mentioned earlier, and it couldn't reach R2. So I trace back and see that what I need to do is change one thing. You can see here, originally the static is set to this IP address, right? Route 2 IP address from 1 to 2. But because of that, it couldn't reach, it couldn't do anything, it's timeout, right? Packet drop, right? So what did I do? I retype everything. I realize I make mistakes. I redo everything again, right? Okay. I did this one again, and you can see now I have two. So I realized you can't have two. Interface is only one. It have to be one, maybe two, but in this example, it had to be one, right? It's only one connect to the router. Okay, so I realized I need to remove one of them. This is my problem solving skill. Like you can't have two of them. You only need to have one. And how do I delete one of them? So I Googled it, and it turned out I just need to type no IP route. So like the first one, basically telling the router, hey, remove this, delete this, delete this line. We want to use this one instead, right? That's what I did. I remove by using the keyword no. That's it. And then I save by typing write memory. I have the typo here. But then finally come back and run the command, right? Keep say timeout. Once I finish that, come over here and ping again. And finally, I successfully connect from connect PC1 to PC2. It take me about 3 days and four, five to six times rewatching everything. Um, just want to share my learning experience with you guys. What I did is I write it down, every single word he said, and I connect the dot. For whatever reason, it makes sense to me, and I understood what's going on each time he doing it. By just watching it, my brain cannot process. So I have to write it down, pause the video, write it down, and you know, just look at it and try to understand what is going on. It take me about three time to understand this, right? Three time, watch 3 to 4 times to understand this. Anyway, I just want to share that maybe my future self go back and watch this and give it a laugh, or maybe it could be for an employer. Checking out my video, check out how I explain things and stuff. So yeah. Also, this is my motivation. I um, basically, yeah, my motivation. I really enjoy doing this. So anyway, see y'all.